Tormented Souls 2 is a follow-up that, while ambitious, ultimately feels like a rushed sequel to what was a surprisingly solid AA survival horror experience. It tries to expand on the foundations of the first game with sharper visuals and new gameplay mechanics, but too often those improvements come at the cost of the tight, atmospheric focus that made the original stand out. Visually, there's no denying that some progress was made. The environments themselves look fantastic, and are filled with eerie lighting effects and detailed, moody locations that perfectly capture the series' tone. Unfortunately, the same praise can't be extended to the character models, and especially the facial animations, which range from stiff to downright unsettling for all the wrong reasons. It's a noticeable step back in immersion when the game looks this good, but the characters moving through it do not. The gameplay also takes a bit of a stumble. Yes, the original had its rough edges, but the sequel feels less polished in terms of movement and interaction. In fact, getting stuck on the environment is more common than it ever was for me in the first title. The new light mechanic, intended to deepen tension and strategy by preventing you from being stuck in the darkness, ends up feeling more tedious than engaging. It adds friction, but not the kind that enhances the horror. In fact, some portions of the game even bugged out, where I would light a candle and then a cutscene would start, I'd be in complete darkness and die. Puzzles have always been a major part of the genre's appeal, and they were done pretty well in the original, yet this time, they border on the overly obscure. Oftentimes, clues and hints were less intuitive, often leaving me wondering what to do next, or more likely reaching for an online guide. The result is a slower, more frustrating pace that doesn't reward player intuition as effectively as it should. Combat made an effort to expand with a few new weapon types like the chainsaw and the crossbow, adding variety to your arsenal, and were admittedly fun to experiment with initially. However, the overall fighting in the game remains a secondary element. It's serviceable, but far from the main draw. Far too often, you had to rely on the dodge button, which had some sort of input lag that made it seem unusable, especially when fighting some of the new, annoying enemy types like the disappearing, reappearing ghosts. Narratively, Tormented Souls 2 picks up right where the first game left off, providing those who have played the original additional context and backstory, explaining the previous trials that the characters have gone through. It's not essential to have played it to follow along, but fans will appreciate the continuity. The story itself beyond that is standard survival horror fare, competent but unremarkable, predictable, doing just enough to keep you moving through the nightmarish environments. In the end, Tormented Souls 2 is not a bad game, but one that feels caught between ambition and execution. It builds upon its predecessor in certain visual and conceptual ways, yet stumbles in the fundamentals that made the first outing so enjoyable. It's still a worthwhile visit for fans of classic-style horror, but for everyone else, it might be best to wait until the series maybe refines its footing in a hopeful next sequel. Tormented Souls 2 earns a 6 out of 10.